All right, last section we dealt with introducing you to the concept of slope and finding slope. Now we're going to take that concept of finding slope and apply it to writing and graphing equations. One thing that I did introduce to you last section was slope-intercept form of an equation. Y equals mx plus b. Inside that equation, we're given some information. We're given an x and a y. That x and y represent a point. Let me rewrite that because that's sloppy. That x and y represent a point on that line, whatever the line is. The m represents the slope of the line, and b represents the y-intercept. We talked about slope. We talked about positive slopes, negative slopes, zero slopes, undefined slopes. Then we talked about parallel line slopes and perpendicular line slopes. All of those you should be familiar with now, and now we're going to take those ideas and we're going to apply them. In example 1, we're told to write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form. We need two pieces of information before we can do that. We're going to follow these steps. Excuse me. The first step we're always going to follow, and in fact, we even need to write this a little bit bigger so that you never forget it. Hopefully you're going to write it down anyway. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Steps to writing equations of lines. Number 1, slope. Find your slope. Whether you're using parallel lines, perpendicular lines, whether you need the slope formula, get your slope first. Second thing, find the y-intercept. Not every equation is going to have the same y-intercept, or their b, so you need to find the y-intercept for your equation. Then the last thing, you can write the equation. Given those two pieces of information, the slope and the y-intercept, you can write your equation. It would look like y equals whatever your slope is, x plus whatever your y-intercept is. Very simple. In fact, we're even going to take that and follow it right now. Follow those 3 steps in example 1. Write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form. The first thing we need to do is find the slope. I'm given my 2 points here, 0, 4, 3, negative 2. I can remember from yesterday, and I hope you do too, the slope formula, maybe not yesterday, but last section, the slope formula is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. I'm going to take these 2 slopes that I'm given and I'm going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2. You might be saying, Mr. Gentry, does it matter which one is which, x1, y1, x2, y2? It does not. Because if your algebra is correct and you input them correctly and then you simplify it correctly, we should get the same slope. Maybe you used 3, negative 2 as your x1, y1 and 0, 4 as your x2, y2. We should still get the same answer. So now I'm going to take my formula and substitute in all my numbers for my variables. Instead of writing y2, I'm going to write negative 2 minus y1, which is 4. Divide that by x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is 0. I'm going to take this and I'm going to simplify it. Negative 2 minus 4 is the same as negative 2 plus a negative 4, which is negative 6. 3 minus 0 is just 3. Now I can take this and reduce it. Negative 6 divided by 3 is a negative 2. There's my slope. Now the second thing that I'm told to do is find the y-intercept. Found the slope? Check. Find the y-intercept. Now this is kind of tricky. This involves a lot of substitution. And this is where a lot of geometry and algebra students get stuck. We're going to take the equation of our line, y equals mx plus b. Now I'm going to start substituting stuff in. The first thing I'm going to substitute is my slope, because I know that. The second thing I'm going to substitute is an xy. Now I have 2 to choose from. There's 1, there's 2. I'm given 2 different points that I can use the x and the y from to substitute in. Now, the x, I'm going to use this one right down here. I'm going to use number 2. The x is 3, and the y is negative 2. And you'll notice the only thing we don't have a substitution for is b. That's because that's what we're solving for. We're trying to find our new y-intercept. So I can use my algebra to solve for b. Negative 2 times 3 is a negative 6. I drop down everything else because I didn't do anything with it. In order to get b by itself, I need to get rid of this 6. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides so that these cancel out. And so I get b by itself. Negative 2 plus 6 is 4. I found my b. Step 2, check. Step 3 is to write the equation. And like I told you, it will be y equals whatever our slope is, x plus whatever our y-intercept is. We found our slope to be negative 2, our y-intercept to be 4. The equation of our line is y equals negative 2x plus 4. Let's review that. We took the graph they gave us. They gave us 2 points on that graph. The first thing we did was use those 2 points to find the slope of that line. Then I took one of those points. I used 3, negative 2. You could have used 0, 4, by the way. And we solved for our y-intercept. Take those 2 pieces of information and plug them into the equation, or where they go. Substitute them in, if you will. And then we have our equation. We're done. That's as far as I need to go. Now, let's go to the next page. Example 2 says, write an equation of the line that passes through this point, this xy, and is parallel. I'm going to stop. I'm going to highlight that because that's muy importante. Is parallel to the line in example 1 from your notes. The first thing I'm going to do is write my equation, y equals mx plus b. I'm given some information right away. I'm given an x and a y. I'm going to substitute those in first. My y is 3, and my x is 2. Now it tells me I need to write the equation of a line that is parallel to the line in example 1. The line in example 1 is right here. What do you know about parallel lines? I'm hoping that some of you are repeating that annoying phrase that I had you repeat with me. Parallel lines have the same slope. Parallel lines have the same slope. Parallel lines have the same slope. I need the slope from this line, and I'm going to borrow it and use it in my new equation. Because I want them parallel. Remember that if one of them has a negative 2 slope, I need a parallel line with the same slope. Now all I'm doing is solving for the new y-intercept, wherever that is. So here's my slope. It's negative 2. I'm going to plug that in for my m. And again, the only thing that I don't know is my b. I'm still following the same steps. Number 1, slope. I know my slope. It's negative 2. I didn't have to do any work for that. That was easy. Number 2, find the y-intercept. I'm doing that right now. And after I do that, I can write my equation. Well, if I use algebra here to solve for b, I can simplify this equation. 3 equals negative 2 times 2, which is negative 4, plus b. I need b by itself, so I've got to cancel this negative 4 out. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. When I do, it cancels out. I'm left with b equals 3 plus 4 is 7. Let me write my equation now. Y equals whatever my slope is, which is negative 2, x plus whatever my y-intercept is, which is 7. Using the information they gave me a point. They gave me information to get my slope. They didn't tell me my slope, but they said it's parallel to this line. And you know that parallel lines have the same slope. So I'm going to borrow this slope for my new problem. I have my slope. I found my y-intercept using the point and the slope. And then I take both my new pieces of information, my slope and my y-intercept, and I write my equation with them. Not too tough. Example 3 is similar, but it's also different. Example 3 says, write an equation of a line perpendicular to the line in example 1, and that passes through the point 2, -2. Here they gave me an x and a y, and they told me to use a line perpendicular to the line in example 1. Well, perpendicular lines have a very, very interesting slope. If the line in example 1 has a slope of -2, a perpendicular line should have a negative reciprocal slope. Well, the negative reciprocal of -2, if I want the negative of a negative, that means that my new slope is positive. The reciprocal of 2 is 2 flipped over, so it's 1/2. My new slope is 1/2. Look at what we did there. We did not need the slope formula like we did in example 1. In example 2, they told me parallel. I took what I knew about parallel lines and applied it. The same thing in example 3. They told me to use a perpendicular line. I took what I knew about perpendicular lines having negative reciprocal slopes and applied it to get my new slope. There, boom, step 1 done. I already have my slope. Now, exactly like in example 2 and exactly like in example 1, I have to solve for my new y-intercept. I'm going to write my equation, y equals mx plus b. They gave me an x and a y to substitute in, so I'm going to do that now. For y, I'm going to write -2. For m, I'm going to write what my slope was, or what my new slope is, 1/2, times x, which is 2. Again, if I look, the only thing I don't know is b, so I'm going to solve for b. I can use algebra to simplify this. 1/2 times 2 is 1. Drop down everything else that I didn't use. Now I want b by itself, which means I need to cancel out this positive 1. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides to cancel it out. When I do that, I get b equals -2 minus 1 is a -3. So I found my y-intercept. I'm going to write my equation now, substituting my new information in. Y equals whatever m is, which in this case is 1/2, x plus whatever my y-intercept is, which in this case is -3. Follow these 3 steps exactly like we did in example 1, example 2, and example 3, and you will never have a problem writing the equation of a line, whether it's a parallel line, a perpendicular line, or just any old line that goes through 2 points. Find the slope, find the y-intercept, and write your equation. And that's it. That is all that this section has. Find the slope, find the y-intercept, and then write your equation. Make sure that it looks like y equals something x plus something else. Let's look at your homework.